Chance here, a great save. Turner from McClare. Might come. A terrific goal by Sheridan.
Brexman against Jones. Get in.
You could have two goalkeepers in there that would have trouble saving that.
The Wednesday Week. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and a very well welcome to the Wednesday Week, the Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm Lord Hillsborough, and with me on the line, first of all, we have Mr. Beastie. Hello there, Beastie old boy.
Hello, Lord H, and hello, podcasters.
Very good, and of course, we have Mr. Edward as well. Hello there, Eddie old boy.
Good evening, Lord H, and good evening, everybody out there in internet land.
And we are short of fudge this evening, chaps. He's been off doing fudgy type things. Is he swanning, do you think, again?
It's always swanning, isn't it?
I'm assuming that he's got, some sort of DJ set in Milan or something. Whatever he usually does when he can't be here. It's usually something exotic and extravagant, isn't it? So, we're lucky to have him when we have him.
Absolutely, it's a hard knock life for fudgers. So, chaps, we'll crack on with some football, shall we? And let's back straight on with the Derby game. Of course, we had a new loan signing coming on for the Derby game, which we shall speak about a little bit later on. But all in all, Beastie, what do we think? Two apiece, a fair enough result?
Well, the result were fair. I don't think many fans from either side can really argue about the result. Wednesday fans will probably, at the end of it, feel they should have won, that we should have won, and Derby fans probably feel a little bit relieved. But when you look back on it, in cold light of day, 2-2 were a really good result for both sides, I think.
Yeah, it was a really good game of football, actually. Kind of try to look at it as a neutral. They came out and we've been talking for the last few weeks about how their teams have come to Hillsborough and they haven't known how to deal with us, and we've really dictated play and dominated the proceedings. But Derby came out with a really good plan, and that first half, they really put us under pressure. They asked a lot of questions of Sheffield Wednesday, and at times, we came up short a little bit in that first half. But it was a really good game of football. As much as they had dominance in the first half, we really, really pushed them in the second half. Well deserved to get the equaliser, and I think, to be honest, we probably are disappointed that we didn't go on and win that game, because after it got back to 2-2, all that confidence, that swagger that Derby had in the first half, it disappeared. It absolutely disappeared on the pitch, in the dugout, and especially in the stands. From being a very noisy, raucous crowd, they were there at Hillsborough to kind of show that they could bring an away crowd as well after what we did in the first day of the season. We really had to battle back against a few odds there.
Yeah, well, I'm pleased you've mentioned a couple of points there that I really do agree with. But one or two Wednesday fans, straight after the match on radio and on the internet, on Twitter and on Facebook, they all complained about Sheffield Wednesday being poor in the first half. Now, to me, that does a disservice to both sides, because in my opinion, in that first half, Derby were just so much better than us. We can't carry on, or we can't go on saying every time a team is better than us that it's us that's bad. Sometimes you've just got to accept and acknowledge that the other team have outplayed you, that they've played good football, and that basically they deserve the lead or they deserve to be ahead. And I thought Derby played absolutely smashing football in that first half. They were a pleasure to watch, even the absolutely annoying Jamie Ward. I mean, I don't see it as real hate with footballers. I see it more as pantomime hate, and I hope the majority of football fans do as well. And that's how I view him. You boo him, but it's pantomime booing. And that little sod run us ragged, didn't he?
Oh, absolutely. He was everywhere in that first half. And it's strange, actually, because we talked about everything that we did well the last few games, and it was all about us getting the ball down the flanks, a lot of overlaps, a lot of interchange between the kind of the fullbacks and the midfielders, and that is fantastic. You know what? Derby, they got it absolutely right. We've said that teams have come up and not set up for the way that we play, and we've punished them.
So to be fair, Eddie, what you're saying is because you've been telling everybody exactly what's wrong with the Wednesdays for the first half of this season, that you've given the game away, basically, oh boy, it's your fault.
Pretty much. I'm amazed that it's taken this long. I don't know. I understand that our podcast has got more popular in recent weeks. I didn't think it was just from opposing managers listening to what I had to say about Wednesday's tactics and how to beat them. So, well done. It'd be nice to have a brown envelope, just sent through the post anonymously to say thank you. You've helped us.
I can sort you out with that. Eddie, I've got loads of brown envelopes. If that's all you're after,
no,
I didn't realise you were that easily pleased.
It has to have some money in, if possible.
You really don't want a brown envelope from Beastie.
I think we're at cross purposes here. A brown envelope in your mind is something totally different.
And so, as Eddie said there, of course, did play some cracking stuff in the first half, and I mean, their first goal really was a very, very, very well-worked goal. Credit where it's due and all that kind of thing, but as you say there, Eddie, second half, my word, Wednesday came out and...
Well, before we go into the second half, I want to mention a couple more things from that first half, especially about Jamie Ward. Do you think that the Wednesday fans actually spurred him on? Because every touch that he had in that first half, obviously they were booing him. Now, a player like Jamie Ward is going to love that, isn't he? He's going to rise to that. And if
Absolutely.
We talk about making players feel uncomfortable at our place. You can't do any more than that, than boo his every touch. But surely, if you're going to make your mark at a place where the fans hate you, then that's how to do it. You thrive on those boos and you build them up and you ram them back down the throat. And like you said, that first goal was just a joy to watch. I know it was the opposition and I know it was against us, right? But it was a beautiful goal. It was a lovely touch, lovely passing football. And had it been us, we'd have been all over it. And the final touch was from Jamie Ward, wasn't it? And
the ball through.
It was a nothing of a touch, but it was just something else. And
it was beautiful. He just took the sting off that ball because it was a through ball. It was. There's actually quite a lot on it, and he just literally stroked it, took all of the heat off it, and just played it straight into the path. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. And I get your point, Beast. But it swings and roundabouts. And wasn't it only a week ago or 2 weeks ago that we were talking about how sweet it was that it was Leon Clark that had put the blaze to the sword.
Absolutely.
So it goes with the territory, doesn't it? It's part of the fun, it's part of the banter, and it actually elevates a game that otherwise wouldn't mean as much if you've got one of those ex-players, those figures of hatred that are out there, and it gives a bit of an edge to it.
I think it's testament to how well Derby did play and how much they bossed that first half that probably every Wednesday fan in that ground just couldn't wait for half time to come. I don't know about you. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm girly at the best of times. When things are getting tense, I tend not to look, and I watch the clock. But everybody in that ground couldn't wait for half time to come, could they?
No, we weren't at the races, were we? Really? And it's credit to Derby. We don't do a lot of this, do we, on this podcast? Is actually talk about the opposition, but credit to Derby. They came there with a plan. They're a good passing side. They did exactly what they needed to do, which was isolate us in the centre of the park, spray balls out wide, keep us on our back foot. And that was as dominant a performance as I've seen since, probably since Huddersfield at home last season, where they just tore us apart. Half-time couldn't have come soon enough. And, to be honest, amongst the people that I sit with, I think most of us were saying, you know what, if we get away with a point here, then we've done really well. Because they said the proper team, didn't they?
Yeah, I said exactly the same to Young'un at probably around about the same point. I said to her, would you take a point now? And I mean, I was desperate for a point at that point. And she said, no. Which, I mean, to be fair to her, she always says that.
She's not been beaten down by this club enough, has she? She clearly is still idealistic.
Yeah, either that or she's just not as lily-livered as I am. And I would have grabbed a point with both hands at that point, but she were adamant that we could get into that game. And half time came at just the right time for us. And when we came back out, I think it was Antonio, wasn't it, who put blazed one straight
away.
back. Yeah, it burst through. It pounced onto a loose ball, I think it was, and then burst through 3 or 4 of them, and just belted it over the bar. And I thought, right, that's the response we want. And then seconds later, it got worse.
Oh, terrible. And you know what? At the time, and I confess, I'm like you, Beast, is when things are going a little bit awry, I start concentrating on other things. I was checking that the screws on the seat in front of me were tightened up correctly. I was checking that my son had enough of his cereal bar left. I was checking that my daughter had her gloves on properly. All this sort of stuff. So I looked up just in time to see the challenge from Lera, and I thought, you know what? No, that's not a bad challenge. He's dived there. He really has dived. I maintained that right up to the point where I saw the Football E show that night, when I realised that as much as it is possible for a human being to be wrong, I was wrong.
Well, as soon as I saw it, I thought that's a penalty. There were no two ways about it. But the worst thing about it was, it were going nowhere. Right,
he were heading for corner flag.
No, it was. So what? I mean, did Lera get him tangled up in his legs or something? Because it was just ridiculous. I mean, to think that he could get away, we're just barging him over like that in the box. After everything that he's gone through this season, after everything that we've gone through this season, you'd think that somebody as experienced as Lera would be able to learn from that, wouldn't you? But no, he just tried to bury the poor little lad. No, it was Jamie Ward.
To be fair, I mean, if you just look at the actual highlights rather than the entire game, the vast majority of attacks we have do involve Lera. I mean, I don't know how he gets up the pitch so much, chaps, but he seems to be involved in absolutely everything.
It's interesting. I've actually noticed it the last few games that he seems to have a license. It's not just free kicks. It's not just set pieces where he gets sent up, etc. He seems to have a license to push up through the middle, and when we're not attacking down the flanks, you actually see the fullbacks just filter back in and kind of make it a back three and let Lera just kind of rampage forward a little bit. And to be honest, it's usually because he starts with the ball in the back four and has a bit of a run and then decides that he's going to dink one forward, etc. But I don't know whether this is by design or whether it's by accident, but it seems that we've kind of looked into this idea of Lera as as it reminds me a little bit of. You know what? I'm terrible at this. Podcast. I'm meant to be an authority on Wednesday. Who was that chap that we had that we sold to Glasgow Rangers? Who's that coming over the hill? It's
Bagheera,
Majid Bagheera. Remember when he used to rampage out of defence?
Whoa, stop! Before you go any further, let's take a moment to revel in the fact that I remembered something.
Well done, Beast.
Cheers. Thank you.
You've saved us all there.
Very much. First name was Majid, by the way.
Majid Bagheera. So you remember when he used to just stride out of defence, and that was the first time we'd seen that in a long, long time. And especially in this game, because Derby seemed to have had our main attacking threat of get the ball out early down the flanks and watch those boys interchange all the way up the pitch. They seemed to have that scouted, so we had to do something different. And Lera just did blitz forward second half.
But if he's giving penalties away, it's a great big deal of what's happening at the back as well, isn't it? Never mind.
Well, true, but isn't that our problem this year that our main threats on goal also happen to be the lads that we're employing to keep goals out. So it's an issue, isn't it? When we've got out of our back four, probably two of them are as much attackers as defenders.
And to be fair, I mean, I've given Lera quite a lot of stick this year.
Quite a lot of stick. Was it not Lera that you said had to be taken out to the barn and shot?
Oh no, that wasn't me. That was Fudge that said that.
Oh, fair enough.
Hang on. So the man who came up with #GayForLera, apparently he's the one that's been riding him hard.
Oh, you know what he's like.
Different kind of shooting, old boy. Different kind of shooting.
You know what Fudge is like? Changes his mind every week, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's terrible. He can't remember what he's saying, can he?
So, chaps, I mean, the game cracked on, shall we say, and the first goal came from a corner, chaps. It was a little bit of a scrappy affair, but they all count, shall we say?
I know you were going to brush over it because it was scrappy. It was scrappy, But it was another excellent ball right into the danger zone from Danny Pugh, who doesn't deliver a poor ball ever.
Absolutely.
Right? Never. It's just not in his repertoire at the moment to put in a bad ball. Obviously, being at Wednesday, we'll work that out of him. Right? We did it to Chris Lyons. We've done it to everybody else. Danny Pugh is on borrowed time, but he puts the ball in there, and as soon as you get it in there, and this body's in there, and you've got big people like Lita in there, and you've got Antonio scrapping around at the back, it's going to create panic, and eventually it's going to drop in, and that's what it did. Now, fair enough, it wasn't as nice or as aesthetically pleasing as the second one. As you say, Antonio put that ball in, and it was just a peach, wasn't it? It was just begging to be hammered home. And there's Big Mig to hammer it home. And as you said, he was about to run forward, and he was coming down our side, ready to give it some real Big Mig screaming. And we were ready for him, and then he suddenly realised that we needed to get get the ball back into play and start playing again if we were going to win this, and he forgot totally all about celebrating, so we just did his own celebration and carried on without him.
Didn't it show you though what the attitude was in that team?
Yes.
Because I think they believed that, okay, 2-0 down, but coming back to that wasn't enough, because it's the unwritten rule in football, isn't it? Right? If you're 2-0 down, and you get a goal back, obviously you run into the net, you pick up the ball, you sprint back to the centre circle, you get the game going on, right? But as soon as you get a leveller, as soon as you get that equaliser, all bets are off. You can have the biggest celebration in the world, and I loved the fact that Lera headed it in. I mean, not be funny, the hang time must have been 4 or 5 seconds. It was like he was on wires. He got up there, players were falling left, right and centre. He still hung up in the air, bam, header in the back of the net. Rah, we all knew the ridiculous Lera celebration was coming. And he got round the side of the goal to the cop. He started roaring and then thought, you know what? We can win this. Immediately stopped, went back into the goal, grabbed the ball, straight back at it.
Don't you think it changed? Straight after we got that first goal, you could feel the mood amongst the Wednesday fans change straight away. And there were absolutely no doubt, all right, I wimp out at the slightest thing. But there were no doubt in my mind that the Younger were right at that point, at 2-1, that we were going to get back in that game. And, I mean, the Wednesday fans were singing, "You're not singing anymore," and 2-0, and you effed it up. So and I'm thinking, hang on a minute, we haven't got an equaliser yet. We're not in front, and you're singing this at him, and you're taunting him. But the change from the two sets of fans, the Derby fans, suddenly they've been making all that noise at 2-0, rightly so, giving us some right stick, and we had to sit there and take it. We got a goal back, and that was it. They went stum, and all the Wednesday fans were suddenly full of it. Like it just felt like we were winning.
Yeah, it were almost like 2 goals in one, wasn't it? It were instantly. Yeah. I think, to be honest, I think we felt aggrieved with the penalty, right? But because we'd started off that second half so strongly, with Antonio's run, etc., the penalty actually came against the run of play. As silly as that sounds, because we'd only been playing for 3-4 minutes, but that penalty came against the run of play. And so as soon as we actually got one back and carried on going, it was like it was, we knew it was happening. There was no doubt in anyone's mind in that stadium that when Lera rose up for that cross, that was going in the back of the net. It was 2-2. Let's get on and win the game. The fact is now, 2-0 down doesn't really mean anything, because we get back to 2-1 and suddenly it's going to happen. We're going to roar them in. The players are going to do what they need to do. It's absolutely brilliant to see. And it's a travesty that we didn't win the game, because we would have deserved it easily.
Yeah, well, do you think that Dave Jones making the substitution as early as he did had a massive part to play in that turnaround? Because when he took Kizali off, I thought that were a good. I didn't think it was a good move at the time. I thought it was a brave move, because, all right, Kieran Lee at that point wasn't having a profound effect on the game, but he was doing what a lot of Wednesday fans like to see. He was running around a lot, and he was getting through a lot of work rate, but he wasn't actually affecting the game.
It was interesting to me because like we talked about, it's been that those 4 players, the 2 fullbacks and 2 wings have been so key to what we've done the last few games. It wasn't working, and so it was a brave move by Dave Jones. But I was glad that he decided that he was going to change it very, very early on. And what an impact Connor Wickham had. I don't know how much of it was about the changing system, because to be honest, I'm sure those players weren't expecting to have to play to a completely different system so early on. I honestly believe that the upturn that we had was about just that level of class, that level of level-headedness that Connor Wickham brought to the game. Because as much as he's a big old unit, isn't he? I didn't appreciate how big he was actually until I saw him in the flesh. As much as physically he was an imposing man, but also he knew how to move. He knew how to move off the ball to make sure that he had the maximum amount of time and space to do what he wanted to do. And okay, he didn't score, but he created an awful lot that changed the face of that game. And it's credit to Dave Jones for making the change, but it's also credit to Connor Wickham, because he strode around looking like he was at least 2 levels above that game.
Oh, without a doubt, it was just incredible. I can't speak highly enough of him. It was a wonderful debut by that lad, and as you said, he absolutely oozes quality. But I was really impressed with the way that he settled into the side, bearing in mind he'd only arrived at the club Saturday morning.
That's mad, isn't it, that?
And the only training he'd done with that squad was to watch videos. And if you watch in that second half, the way that he interacts with Leroy Lita, it's absolutely fabulous. You've got a young lad there, 19-year-old, who seems to have the air of somebody that's, heading towards retirement, playing alongside somebody who actually has got that experience. And the runs that they were both making for each other, the anticipation. We haven't seen a striker at Sheffield Wednesday for absolutely years where they sit on the last defender and roll him. Right, yeah. And Leroy Lita were doing that on Saturday, and he was doing that on Saturday because of the freedom that Connor Wickham was allowing him to have, and it was just a great pairing for them two. So I hope that Wednesday fans, even the doubters that have still got it in for Dave Jones, I hope they give Dave Jones some credit for that.
Don't be daft, Beastie. Wednesday fans only talk about Dave Jones when he's done bad things.
It changed the game, though, didn't it? Lord H, you watch the highlights. We were at pitch level, weren't we, me and Beast, watching it. And to be fair, I've only seen the highlights since. I get the impression that watching that almost as a tactical masterclass, you look at that Premiership quality that Lita and Wickham have, and it must have been brilliant to watch, because you've got them doing things that we haven't seen from strikers at Hillsborough in a long, long time.
Absolutely. We're watching the whole game back, as we all can do on the Wednesday play there. The actual movements of the strikers, it is, as Beastie said, it's something we've not seen for such a long time. And obviously we've had decent strikers in the last few years, and we've cheered them on. The closest thing, should I say, we've had to a striker with movement has been Ryan Lowe, in my opinion. He's a very, very clever player, but just missing that little bit of a spark. And both these chaps seem to have it in bundles. I mean, there's as Beastie said, there's a really, really good turn by Lita. He doesn't actually touch the ball.
No, he don't. I know which one you're on about.
He turns a player. The ball runs past him, goes through 2 defenders, still hasn't touched the ball. All he's done is turn around, and fair enough, the shot could have been a little bit better from the chap, and it did fly wide. Over, should I say? But the actual turn itself, well, it was just magical to watch. And again, far be it from me to hark back to the good old 90s, chaps, but it's been a long time. You're talking David Hurst since we've seen things like that. You're talking maybe Mark Bright since we've seen things like that, and I mean, it's really, really exciting watching these two at the minute, boys. And as you say, that's after the first half an hour has been at the club.
To think that Connor Wickham can't get a game at Sunderland, who, let's be honest, are only a division or so above us in terms of the league table, etc. It's scary.
Well, I asked the question pretty much straight after that game on the internet, and when was the last time we had an £8 million striker playing for us? I'm not talking about Franny Jeffers, who was, but worth 8 million at one time. I'm on about he was worth 8 million when he played for us. And I think you're looking at the sort of players that you spoke about, Lord H. You know, the likes of Hurst. You know, given inflation, what did Man United offered 4 million?
Well,
I think.
Yeah, 5 million for Hurst then.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, that's a completely different level. But certainly, let's say, you know, the £4 million that we paid for Di Canio, you know, that must probably be £10 million now. So I think you're looking in that order of magnitude. We're looking at some of the best players that we've ever seen playing in a Wednesday shirt. So, you know, Connor Wickham is no slouch. Let's hope that he can really make a difference.
Absolutely, chaps, absolutely. And of course, it's been an exciting time at the moment. I mean, obviously, the actual games in the league went against us rather a lot on Saturday as well. So, in regards of actual league position itself, we did slip down a position. And again, it's just looking so close down there. All the teams around the mountains seem to have picked up decent wins. And again, it's just we're doing our bit, chaps, but the people around us don't seem to realise that they should be losing so we can get up the table.
Well, when you're at a game and you're in the last few minutes, do you ever wonder what the other games are doing at that point? Does that come into your head, or are you totally focused on what's happening in front of you? Because during that derby game, in the last few minutes, there were 5 minutes injury time, I think, weren't there?
Absolutely, yeah.
Which, when you've got a game like that going, where one mistake or one flash of brilliance changes the whole outlook of the game, I think that them last 5 minutes were tense for both sets of fans. Certainly tense for me, because like we were on about before, I spent a lot of time in that last 5 minutes looking downwards. So I've all on worrying about what's happening. Well, not in front of me, because that's just concrete, but just slightly forward of where I'm sitting. I can't even contemplate what's going on around me, but I know that there are other fans that are on the phone straight away, you know, with minutes to go, wanting to know what's happening to Barnsley and what's happening to Peterborough and what's happening to Bristol City. Does that get to you too, that? It's
more, you know what? It's as soon as I get in the car, turn the ignition on, Radio Sheffield's on, and suddenly you're kind of back in the real world. You're out of your bubble, aren't you? Your Wednesday bubble. By the end of the season, it could be Derby in the bottom three that we're worrying about, you know, what their result is, kind of thing. So all you can do really is go, or get back in the car. You hear the results coming in. Pigs have spawned a last minute winner, whatever. Barnsley have somehow managed to win again. You know, okay, the local teams, they're doing whatever they're doing. And then you kind of piece it together bit by bit. Barnsley picking up a win it's really, really thrown into sharp contrast the fact that Wolves aren't doing anything at all. They're a terrible team. Ipswich aren't doing anything at all. They're a terrible team. Huddersfield, they're not winning. You know, they're winning one and losing one, etc. Everyone else down there, Birmingham, Bolton, Charlton, Blackpool, they're all picking up the odd point here and the odd point there. You know what? We're the form team in that bottom half of this table. We're the form team, full stop, in this division. So I'm quite happy for teams to be winning one week and losing the next, as long as we keep picking up points, because the more teams that we can drag into a situation where they're not sure what they have to do, they're not sure where they are in the table, the better for us.
I think Derby, I'll be very surprised if Derby are anywhere near the bottom three for a start, because I think they've got good strength throughout their squad, a good set of players with different skills, and I think they are what we should aspire to certainly for next season. They've got a good balance. They play to a good tempo. If we can emulate them next season, I would be very, very happy with that. I think they've given us not exactly a lesson, because we've matched them in both games. But I've thoroughly enjoyed both games, at theirs and at ours. It was a little bit colder.
Football, weren't they?
There were really good games of football. It was a little bit cold at ours, especially compared to the fixture at theirs. But just both thrilling games of football and two good competitive sides. And like I say, I'll be very, very happy if we can emulate them next season.
You've said that about Derby and Brighton so far this season.
Yeah, well,
to be honest, and looking at where they are, they're both kind of hovering round and about. They're at the right end of the table, and they're doing just enough. And I think there's few Wednesday fans that can actually argue with that as an ideal, because this division's so open. if we use that as a blueprint, Brighton and Derby, they play good football. They've got plenty in midfield. They don't rely on one player. They don't rely on only one kind of system of play, etc. They get the job done. It doesn't always work, but for the most part, it works. You know what? If we're doing that next season, then I think we'll be thereabouts.
Absolutely, chaps, absolutely. So that puts the Derby game to bed then. Boys, all in all, let's say a fair enough result, but we could have scraped something at the end there. Right, so on with pop, chaps. We'll pop onto a little bit of Wednesday news, and obviously, the biggest bit of news is conn-or Wickham coming online. Of course, we did break that on the Wednesday week, quite some considerable time before, I shall think you'll find. Dave Jones, obviously, again, listening and taking heed of what we say. The other bit of news that's come out this weekend is that Danny Mayer has popped off to join Southend on loan. It's on a 28-day loan initially, with a view to extending, but, from what we've seen of Mr. Mayer, he's a decent player. Do we think this is Mr. Jones sending him out for the Coke effect? Or do we think there's a view to get rid of him here, chaps?
Well, we all thought that we'd seen the last of both Giles Coke and David Prutton. And now to see both of them two players right in the thick of this championship campaign and having such a good positive effect, well, it's taken us all by surprise, hasn't it? So now we can hardly bitch or be surprised about young players going out to learn the craft, and we've all been impressed with the likes of Danny Mayer and Paul Corrie, but we've also seen that they've got one or two things lacking in their makeup, and we need them to go out and learn those skills. And did anybody else feel the same warm glow? Obviously, mine will have been because I've wet myself. But the same warm glow, the same warm glow as me when you found out that he were going to Southend and Paul Sturrock. I just thought, well, he's looking after our lads for us, and I thought it's just such a great move. Send Paul Corrie over as well, and let's get all our lads over there, and he'll look after them. Will Sturrock? We know he will.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I actually think it kind of shows what a mess we were in September, October this year, that we had to turn to these lads who they'd been signed, and they actually went on record and said, we've signed these lads for the development squad. We've signed these lads because we think that they're real hot prospects for the future. And you know what? They were thrown into a team that was in crisis, a team that was losing, a team that didn't know how to win a game of football. And they did, they put in a shift. We were all, I think, raving about Corrie against Leeds. I think we were raving about Danny Mayer when he came on the first couple of times. And Rhys McCabe to an extent as well. But these lads weren't signed to be the backbone of this team this season. And so I'm glad that they don't have to feel that pressure, and they can actually do what they were brought here to do, which was learn their craft, become better players. And you know what? I absolutely agree that Paul Sturrock is gonna nurture this talent. You saw what he did with Chris Brunt and Glenn Whelan when he was at Wednesday. He's an absolute master at getting the best out of these young lads and taking them to the next level in their career. So I wish them all, obviously, all the best will in the world. We want to see them come back to Hillsborough and be better players. But this is the way that we kind of imagined it would be with these lads, that they would come and learn their craft at Hillsborough. And if it means going out on loan, then so much the better, because they're going to get real first-team competitive games, etc. And right now, because of the position that we're in, and because of the fact that we've got these two lads back who have had their careers invigorated by loan moves away from Hillsborough, then we don't need them right now. They are exactly where they need to be as young players, being a part of hopefully a successful setup at Southend or wherever they are. So it's fantastic.
Absolutely. Another loanee that maybe worth just having a quick chat about, chaps. Obviously, Beastie's mentioned there about how well Mr. Coke and Mr. Prutton have been doing since they've returned, but Ross Barkley has actually gone back now to Everton from Leeds, a long spell that hasn't lasted an awfully long time. Of course, it was somewhat of a revelation for us chaps, but Would you prefer to have Barkley back now? Now he's obviously back at sort of at a loose end over there at Everton, shall we say? Or obviously, like I say, Mr. Coke and Mr. Brutton have been doing terribly well.
Well, the reason he's gone back to Everton from Leeds is because he wasn't getting a guaranteed start. I don't think he were making all the games, were he? And that's obviously going to be one of the conditions of him sending him out. Otherwise, there's no point in sending out such a talented youngster anywhere, really, is there, if he ain't going to get the games? But who would you drop? Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed watching the lad when he were at our place. I know he's going to be destined for bigger things. But do we really need to bring him back in and disrupt what's happening at the moment? Because it feels a little bit like we're treading on eggshells at the moment. I know we're on a good run. I know everybody's confident, and I know Jeremy Helland said this week that there's a feel-good factor back at the club, and he's enjoying that. I love it, but there's still that feeling of a little bit of eggshells, and whether it would take much to disrupt all that good feeling, whether it would take much to disrupt us from this good run that we're on, and bringing somebody in to replace one of the lads that's helped us get on this run might just be that disruption.
Fair play. I would like to thank Mr. John Eddies over there on Twitter for that question, because we've got some more from the Twitterverse and Facebook later on, chaps. So gird your loins, shall we say, for questions from the Twitterverse. But before we do that, of course, Eddie, I believe you've got a little bit of a surprise for us this week, old boy.
Well, yeah. You know what? We've been doing this for a while now, and I seem to have spent most weeks where we've had a pull down your chance, firmly in the position of the kind of lad who stands in the sidelines and kind of mocks what other people are doing, etc. And I kind of thought that if you can't do the crime, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. And there have been a lot of crimes as far as this little segment is concerned. But you know what? I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want people to say, you know what, you can give it out, but you can't take it.
You will be judged. Don't worry about that. You will be judged.
I was sat there on Saturday, and I was inspired. I was moved to pen real music, real feelings.
Listen at you, John Lennon.
In the honour of the glory of one man. And you may laugh, but these are my real feelings coming straight from the heart, and I really hope that the listeners enjoy it, because I honestly believe that I have a gift.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So here we go, and this is Eddie's Pull Down Your Chants. And just to let you know, chaps, with these Pull Down Chants, what we're going to start doing is we'll also put the lyrics into the show notes as well, so the people out there can sing along. And again, I'm much as a culprit of this as anybody else, so they can sing along, and it just saves them having to pause and listen to the lyrics so much. So here we go. Here is Eddie's Pull Down Your Chants for Mr. Wickham.
If you look back to the autumn, you would say our emotion, optimism went away. We were a team without a striker. We were a team rising up, high climb up the doldrums. We came on wrong. We came on wrong. Please go some goals. Winning will be easy, now you're here for victory. You're the best team you've ever seen. Now they've gone to brought you in from Sunderland. If you can get us a few goals, it will be grand. If you can pop the Leroy Lita and create space for Antonio, then the out choice stay or return
I love it. Apart from autumn and Sunderland. Right? Autumn? What chuffing season is autumn? and Sunderland. Hang on, I was like, now Dave Jones, he brought you in from Sunderland.
I think that's a perfectly reasonable crowbar in line.
Some of the crimes against music that we've seen, if a bit of a transatlantic accent is going to get belters, and I've done my best there. I was inspired by his amazing physical presence.
I'm on board. I like it.
I did wonder though, because sometimes I think, how can this transfer onto the terraces? I'm pretty sure that the cop aren't going to be big on singing Boy George lyrics.
No, they do prefer a more macho type lyric, and I must admit that was the only thing that I was thinking of. But that initial hook is. I think that is gettable by the cop. The conn-or. It's just the...
Have you heard this song, Beastie?
The little bit at the end of that chorus that goes a little bit camp where you go, we're the best team you've ever seen.
Yeah, I think there's work to be done. Although, to be honest, I was doing laps of honour when I came up with the line, winning will be easy now you're here to replace Madine.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. I love it, yeah. Obviously, should Madine come back and Connor Wickham go, that's not going to put Madine in the best of moods, though, is it? So,
Gary, Madine.
Oh, better.
There you go.
It's reversible.
It's interchangeable.
Well, if I were you, I would cover your car in an asbestos blanket and put it in the garage so it comes back.
I'm going to lock up my horse because Gary will punch it. He knows that it's fine, so...
Well, absolutely. I mean, Mr. Eddie has always been a strong advocate of my efforts at Pull Down Your Chances. I'm sure all Wednesdays will remember. I believe the last one, the phrase "this has to stop" was uttered. I mean, clearly it does mean the wonderful talent that flows out of the Wednesday Week podcast here. But no, I have to agree with Beastie. I think the chorus of that song could be a winner on the cop if DISCO isn't camp enough when it comes to Canio, and of course we've got Mr. Samido's song there as well. I think Boy George will be a winner, chaps.
Oh yeah, DISCO is your camp benchmark. Don't get me wrong, right? In the campanology camp, right?
The campanology camp,
right? That is the campest of the camp, right? But this is just bubbling under.
Don't say that when you say things about camp, Beastie. It's not a good phrase. But no, all in all, I think it's a tremendous effort. But we shall let the Twitterverse and the Facebookverse out there be the judge, as always. So please do let us know what you thought about Mr. Eddie's very first effort at Pull Down Your Chants. So, chaps, on we crack. And speaking of the Twitterverse and Facebook over there, I did pop out a little bit of a question this week to see if anybody out there had any questions for us, chaps, and sure enough, in they flooded.
All two of them.
All two or three of them.
One from Lee Brown, one from Sci-Faro.
Well, there was one from Libra and one from Sci-Faro. It must be said, obviously, the people that read the question that I put out there was a slight spelling mistake on there from Jeeves. He has been thoroughly reprimanded.
Oh yeah, your genial hoist.
Yeah. So if anybody didn't have any questions for the hoists, obviously this was a heart back to our American listeners, so they could understand us. Yes. So it was all very, very funny. What's the heaviest thing that we've hoisted? Of course, the standard reply isn't broadcastable over the interwebs. So first of all, we had a question in from Owlstalk, and that was why did Beastie do his hair like the Bronski beat for the latest SWFC fan cam video appearance? Are you big fans of theirs, Beastie?
Excuse me, as everybody who knows me knows, I don't do my hair. Right? My hair is natural, and if anybody would like to come and ask me to prove it, I'm only too willing.
Well, you're not going to show the carpet as well as the curtains, are you, old boy?
If that's what it takes.
when you're looking down at football games, that's not the kind of thing that people are after, Beastie.
Well, I can't help it. I'm not having my good hurt besmirched.
Let's face it, Beastie, you put glasses on, you're basically the Milky Bar Kid's dad, aren't you?
Exactly, and you wouldn't ever cast doubts on the Milky Bar Kid, would you? Ever.
Well, there's been rumours.
Not them kind of rumours.
Eddie, we've got one for you in from your erstwhile colleague over there at Wednesday night, Mr. Dickie Owl. It says, would you mind asking Eddie about his love for Tanya Arnold and his BBC Look North live interview?
Look, I'd like to, first of all, I'd like to say I respect Tanya Arnold as a journalist and as a man.
Hang on, that's not right. I love Tanya, right? After that Wickham game last season, she was in car park, just mooching around, I suppose, trying door handles. No, she won't. Scratch that. Right.
Time to top at the BBC.
Yeah, but she looked very nice, did Tanya?
I used to laugh at Tanya and think, why? How has that happened? But then, in Wednesday's darkest days, when I was involved in all manner of protests and political stuff, I ended up on Look North with Tanya, and she was so striking that night that I developed a bit of a man crush on her. And so, Tanya, if you're listening, Tanya, you've heard tonight that I can speak from the heart through the power of music, and I would dearly love to pen a song only for you. Call me. Twitter, at Sausage Arms.
Yeah, don't call his wife, might answer.
Exactly.
So on the next question, chaps. I thought this might be a good one for Fudge. Unfortunately, it's not here, so we'll have to leave it up to you guys. The question is from Chris Shelley over there on Twitter. And who would win in a fight between a bear and a shark?
You know what? I'm going to throw this one out. If you give us a depth of water as to where the fight's taking place.
What about if it's on a very, very small island? Like a 2-foot square island. So your shark can jump out of the water, but your bear can grab it. It's going to be a bear every time, isn't it?
Well, potentially. I'm sure that I've been through this an awful lot on Owl's Talk, and it turned out that Sausage Arms beat both bear and shark. So.
Well, there you go, chaps. And we did have again one from John Allen over there on Facebook as well. Which says, when recording the show today, can you ask Beastie if he still thinks that Steve Howard could do a job for us? And it doesn't mean about sweeping the car park, Beastie.
He knows that I love Stevie Hard. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but one day Stevie Hard will grace the Hillsborough pitch wearing a Sheffield Wednesday shirt, and I will be cheering him on from the rafters.
We shall bow to your knowledge on that one, Beastie. Of course, here comes the obligatory question from Si Farrow. Well, actually, we'll pop this one to Eddie, because Beastie's had a few to him. Is the Beastie drinking game, Eddie, is that a cure for glove face, do you think?
Quite possibly. It's probably the only thing that hasn't been tried yet, because glove face is sweeping the planet. It's an epidemic, and therefore we need to come up with something.
And finally, chaps, I think this one has been misplaced. It seems to have been sent to the wrong podcast. Again, from John Allen over there on Twitter. It says, please ask Richard why, even though he has lots of good, insightful stuff to say about the club and the matches and just in general, he persists with the Lord H character that detracts from the show. Chaps, have you heard of anybody by that name?
I don't know who he's talking about.
Not
Clearly high on goofballs.
Absolutely. I do apologise, old chap. Seems like you've got in touch with the wrong podcast.
The idea that this podcast has any kind of insightful thought I'm insulted.
Or credibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then, chaps, on we crack, and of course we've got Birmingham. Of course we've got a little bit of a break this weekend, chaps. So I suppose that Beastie will be taking the opportunity to take Mrs. Beastie out for a good shopping session. And Eddie,
you said shopping.
I wondered where you were going with that.
Eddie will be going to take his good lady wife out to buy some new glasses after the incident that we all heard on the podcast before. But we have got that Birmingham match coming up on Tuesday, chaps, and it does seem like it's rather an imperative one. Birmingham do seem to be one of the clubs that we have been chasing for quite some time. They are only 2 points in front of us, and again, there's 4 places separating us with those 2 points. Of course, we shall see how the weekend plays out before we find out exactly what we do need to do. But it's got to be said, chaps, this one's it's a must-win, really.
Well, it is, and if I'm honest, I expected Birmingham to be below us after this run we're on, because when we played them, they were that poor. And I remember speaking to a Birmingham fan after we played him, and he were on his uppers. He'd really had enough. As far as
translate while you were speaking to him, Beastie.
yeah. He were so down, and as far as they were concerned, they were going out of this division and not in a good way. And you would think that with all the problems that they've had, the fire sale that they've had, getting rid of players left, right, and centre, you would think that they would be the ones already below the dotted line, and for some reason they're hanging on for grim death. I just wish they'd just give up.
Chuff off.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just give up. Look, give in to the inevitable. Chuff off and get below that dotted line, will you?
They've had a couple of good results, haven't they?
They have
recently,
annoyingly.
But they're not a good team. I speak a little bit, from the inside, because my brother-in-law is a massive Birmingham fan, and so he's spent the last, probably 10 years ragging me senseless about this. But they're not a good team, and they've spawned wins. They were very lucky to win against Burnley. They were lucky to win against Forest, and it was injury time equaliser against Charlton at the weekend. So they're not a good team, and we are due a good thronking of them. And now we absolutely hammered them at Hillsborough, that first home game of the season with Rodri's amazing one-off, never to be repeated goal. But they aren't a team, and we've got to really put in a show against them. And especially because our away form has been so good, we've been to teams and places that have been much more imposing. They're going to St Andrews and come away with 3 points. So that's what we need to be aiming for. Especially since we're going to be in a position where we haven't had a game this weekend, and we're probably going to be, let's just say for the sake of argument that Barnsley win another game, Wolves might pick up a point. We might only be, out of the bottom 3 on goal difference or by a point, etc. So there's a real imperative that we get off, on the right foot against Birmingham. So I'm looking for 3 points because this team, they're there to be beaten.
This is a Lee Clark side, right? Now, when you strip everything back, it's Lee Clark. All right, he took Huddersfield on a 473 unbeaten match run, but they were all draws, right? This is football at its dullest, right? If we cannot beat a Birmingham side away from home that's managed by Lee Clark, then we are going to be in real trouble over the next few weeks. And given the confidence and the feel-good factor that we've already discussed in this podcast, we've got to carry it on here because it'd be a travesty to let it drop now.
It's strange one is though, chaps. I mean, again, looking at Birmingham's fixtures, they've actually got a game on Saturday as well. They were playing Watford on Saturday on the 16th, and us on Tuesday the 19th. So they've actually got a game to play.
Wouldn't it be good for Watford to duff them up a little bit and make them understand where their place is in the pecking order a little bit? Because I can't imagine that they'll have any kind of confidence coming into a game against us. And we're the exact sort of team that they don't want to have to face right now because we're big and we're physical and we've got our tails up. So let's hope that they're coming out of Saturday with not necessarily a humiliating defeat, but that they've been put back in their place. They've had another defeat. Those jitters are coming back again, etc. And
that sounds like a really unbiased opinion there. Eddie, there's no bitterness, there's no nastiness there. You just want them to get as you said, you want them to get thronked.
Yeah, just thronking. That'll do.
So, chaps, let's have your predictions for the game. Eddie, we'll come to you first, and what do you think? Are we going to do this one?
I don't rate this Birmingham side at all. I'm going strong. I think we'll keep a clean sheet. I'm going 2-0 to the Wednesday.
2-0 Wednesday. Just I'm interested. Does your brother-in-law listen to the podcast?
No, he doesn't. No, because he's from Birmingham. He doesn't understand technology. His TV's only got 3 channels, and he only watches ITV. He's got no interest in anything else.
Beastie, Eddie's saying 2-0. What do you think, old boy?
Well, I'm going to go for a replay of what happened at ours, and I'll go for 3-2 then.
3-2 says Beastie.
And shredded nerves for the last few minutes for me.
Well, I agree with Eddie on the clean sheet point. It does seem that clean sheet has been missing from us for quite some time. I also do believe that we're at a point of the season now where we're really pushing on. So I'm going to go for a 3-0, and I really do think we're going to get these chaps stuffed and sorted out, shall we say.
Someone's due a spanking, aren't they?
Absolutely.
We can't go through the whole season without properly putting someone to the sword. Hull was good enough, but I think we need to actually damage someone.
Yes, it's all that pantomime thing that's coming out again. Kill him now. So then, chaps, that's our expert punditry put to bed for this week. Just one other thing to mention. Of course, Mr. Jones has been charged by the FA for his conduct at the match against the Seagulls there as their manager. Do we think he's going to obviously fight against this chap? So obviously we still don't know exactly the ins and outs of what went off there, but it all seems a bit here, there, and everywhere, doesn't it, boys?
I'm going to make a prediction. He's going to go in there. He's going to spell out exactly what happened. There'll be supporting evidence. He's going to walk away without any kind of sanction against him whatsoever.
Absolutely. And do you think that Mr. Otway will get into a bit of trouble for what we think may have happened?
Yes. Charlie Otway will get a right thronking from the FA.
Word of the day, #thronking.
Just before I go, let me just offer this little bit of advice. I had a little bit of a problem on Saturday at the game because it was a bit cold. Is
this going to be an old man thing?
It's not your nipples again, is it, Beast?
No, it's a public safety warning to the elderly that wrapping up warm is by all means to be applauded. We all need to do that, especially at my age in this weather. But please beware of base layers. I know all the young'uns bang on about base layers. They say, oh, it's all about layering up, get more layers, it keeps you warmer. But you can buy base layers from well-known or not so well-known Korean companies on eBay. I think they're $9.99 for a dozen shirts and like long johns. Please be very careful when you put these on because they are very, very difficult to get off. And at our age, when you need to go to the toilet and sometimes you need to go in a hurry, it's not the best thing to be wearing. And trying to get your hand between your skin and this base layer that is ultra tight is not an easy thing to do. Right? It cuts off your circulation and things get trapped. So please, it's just a little bit of a warning to all the elderly out there. Wrap up warm by all means, but don't trust the base layers.
I thought all chaps had little flaps in the back of the long johns, Beast. Just like a button.
Well, in Korea, they don't believe in flaps, obviously.
So, Beastie, where can we find, if you want to have a good look at your flaps over there on Twitter, where do you need to be?
Yeah, you can get in touch with me at #noflaps, or you can get in touch with me at owlsalive.com or on Twitter at Beastie_.
Fantastic. Eddie, old boy, if people want to congratulate you on your wonderful pull down your chance efforts, where can they do that, old chap?
Well, while we're on the subject of music, Beastie he's put a call out there to the older generation. I still feel like I've got my fingers in the nub of youth. No, hang on.
A phrase like that doesn't really back up that statement.
What does it mean by a nubbin then?
I still feel like I'm in touch with the younger generation.
I think the phrase you're looking for is down with the kids.
I'm down with the kids. Bass layer is not a genre of music. It's not like dubstep. So if you were getting confused and thinking you were going to go onto iTunes and download some like fat bass layer sound, yeah, you know what I'm saying, bruh? Don't do it because he's talking about something completely different.
Just a picture.
Public service announcement over. Contact me on Twitter at Sausage Arms. If you are a member of the younger generation, 18 to 21 female, use your breasts as a sexual weapon, send pictures. Other than that, I'm in the Wednesday Night Lounge. Every single home game, come and see me there. Lord H.
If you do use your breasts as a weapon, sit behind the director's box shouting attack, attack, attack.
Hashtag justice for Bernard.
Of course, ladies and gents, you can get hold of the show over there on Twitter at TWWcast. Of course, if you do have any questions that you'd like to send us via any of our social media outlets or the website over there at www.thewednesdayweek.com. By all means, please do send them. Of course, as we've proved this evening, we're quite knowledgeable about just about everything, chaps. So whether it be Sheffield Wednesday related or not, please do send on your queries. Of course, you can get hold of me over there on Twitter as well at Lord_H. That's L0RD_H over there on Twitter. And please, by all means, do get in touch and join in the fun. So then, chaps, can we have a rousing hurrah for the chaps on Tuesday?
Hurrah!
Fantastic. Thank you very much, boys. And it's a very good evening from all of us out there in podcast land, and we shall see you very soon.
There's a chance here.